You know those sleep trackers, right? They're on our wrists, on our fingers, and they all promise the same thing, to finally decode the mysteries of our night. They boil it all down to one simple score, a single number that we've kind of started to believe is the absolute truth about how we rested. But what if that number isn't telling you the whole story? What if it's actually lying?
I mean, does that sound familiar? I bet it does. It's this wild feeling millions of us have had. You wake up, you feel pretty good. Then you check the app, boom, score 61. And just like that, you suddenly feel exhausted. It's amazing how a single number on a screen can completely hijack how you feel about your own body. It's a really powerful thing, and as we're about to see, it can sometimes be pretty damaging.
All right, so let's really get into this, because we're at this fascinating, kind of ironic point, right? Where the very device that's supposed to help our sleep might actually be the thing that's totally ruining it.
And look, the promise is so appealing, you can see why we bought in. These little gadgets are measuring all this stuff we can't even feel, our heart rate, our body temperature, every little twitch, and then they just distill all that crazy complex data into one simple, easy-to-read score. It feels so scientific, right? It feels like something you can actually do something about.
But here's the thing, and this is maybe the most important part of this whole conversation. That single, authoritatively looking number, it's not the objective clinical measurement we all think it is. It's really just an interpretation.
And look, we're not just pulling that out of thin air. Dr. Rebecca Robbins from Harvard Medical School, she puts it perfectly. She says that, yeah, the sensors inside these things have gotten way better, but the final score you see, it's what she calls a constructed number. In other words, it's just the company's secret recipe, their opinion on what a good night's sleep is. It's not some universal medical fact.
And this right here just drives the point home. Different brands literally just make up different definitions of good sleep. So let's say you get a score of 75. Oura says, hey, that's good sleep. But Apple might look at the same data and say, that's just fair. It shows you that the exact same night of sleep can be graded in two totally different ways. The score isn't objective, it's completely subjective.
So how exactly do they even come up with that number? Well, they've got a bunch of sensors packed in there. There's an accelerometer that tracks how much you toss and turn. There's a little light-based sensor, a PPG, that estimates your heart rate. And of course, temperature sensors. But then, and this is the kicker, all that raw data gets fed into a secret proprietary algorithm. It's a total black box. And that black box is what spits out your final score. And guess what? Its formula is completely different for every single brand.
Okay, now, to be totally fair here, this doesn't mean these devices are useless. Not at all. I mean, of course, they can't match a real clinical sleep lab where they hook electrodes all over your head. But that's not really the point of them. Their real value, their superpower, is just in making you more aware of your own habits and patterns over a long period of time.
But there's a flip side to all that awareness, isn't there? It's the pressure. The pressure to perform. This constant quest for a perfect score can create this really powerful and really specific kind of anxiety.
Yeah, it's such a common thing now that researchers actually gave it a name back in 2017. They call it orthosomnia. And it's defined as this obsession with getting perfect sleep data that paradoxically becomes the very thing that ruins your sleep. How crazy is that?
And this kicks off what researchers call the worry spiral. It's this nasty little feedback loop. It starts with you worrying about your sleep score. Then, that anxiety, it makes you sleep worse. So the next morning, what happens? Your score is even lower, which, of course, just makes you worry even more about the next night. And around you go. The tool that was supposed to help is now the thing causing the problem.
So, this negative spiral, it doesn't hit everyone the same way. Let's talk about who's most at risk for this kind of data-driven anxiety.
Well, Dr. Robbins points out that it's especially tough for people who already struggle with performance anxiety. For them, getting a daily report card like this isn't motivating, it's activating. A bad score doesn't make them think, oh, I'll do better tonight. Nope, it just triggers that exact worry spiral we were just talking about.
Okay, so if that's the danger, how are we supposed to use these things? What's the right way? How can we make sure they're actually a positive force in our lives?
Well, it really all comes down to perspective. Dr. Robbins says the whole goal isn't to obsess over what happened last night. That's a losing game. The real value comes when you zoom out and look at your trends over weeks or even months. That's where you start to spot the real, meaningful patterns.
Okay, so let's get practical. How can we actually build a healthier relationship with our sleep data? How do we turn it from a source of stress into a source of actual insight?
All right, here are a few key mindset shifts. First,
And we just said this, but it's so important. Look at your weekly and monthly trends, not last night's score. One bad night is just noise. A month of bad nights is a signal. Second, focus on what you can actually change. For example, seeing how a glass of wine tanks your sleep? That's actionable. Worrying about some abstract metric you don't even understand? Not so much. Third, and this one is huge, stop checking the app the second your eyes open. Before you look at any data, just check in with yourself. How do you feel? Trust that feeling first. And finally, hey, if it's stressing you out, just take a break. Put the thing in a drawer for a week. Seriously, it's okay.
Because at the end of the day, the real path to better sleep isn't about chasing some arbitrary number. It's about getting back to the simple, powerful, and totally tech-free basics.
You know, the stuff that actually works. Like having a consistent time you go to bed and wake up. That's probably the most powerful thing you can do for your sleep, period. Putting the screens away before bed, building in a little routine to relax, and just being honest with yourself about that late afternoon coffee or that extra drink. These are the things that truly move the needle.
Because when it comes right down to it, there's one metric that is way more accurate and way more important than any algorithm could ever be. And that's just how you feel. It's that simple. If you wake up feeling rested and ready to go, then guess what? You slept well. It doesn't matter what some score says.
So maybe this is the best way to think about it. Your sleep tracker is a tool, not a judge, right? A tool is something that helps you, like a compass that gives you a general sense of direction over the long run. A judge is something that delivers a harsh verdict every single morning. Your tracker is just a source of data, not a source of truth.
And really, that's the question to ask yourself. When you look down at your device, what is it to you? Is it a helpful tool? Or is it a harsh judge? Is it giving you insights? Or is it just giving you anxiety? The answer to that question, well, that's up to you.